Vinny was over there showing you what to do with soft toilet paper. Werewolves are real. And so is the Shadow Realm. Been there twice, like I said before. And Joe will never be there.
All right.
Every Monday through Friday, right here, JB Television. Thoughts and opinions. Always great uplifting things for your day.
Or you never shut the fuck up.
Oh, pain in the ass.
What do you want to do?
Get rid of them. Chop them up. Get rid of the cop. Call me when you get through.
All right, Frank, let's chop them up.
All right, let's go.
Where you going? Where you going, you
What?
dizzy motherfucker, you?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Rhinestone Cowboy Johnny Buchanan here with Season 2, Episode 4. My partner, Sage Santiago. She's here. Say hello, Sage.
Hey, everyone's favorite angel voice. Of course, she had to bless everyone's ears again.
Telling everybody about the angel voice like she always does. But ladies and gentlemen, we got a big timer on the show. We got probably one of the best physiques in professional wrestling, I'll tell you that much. We got Mr. Fear the Gear himself, Spencer Slade is in the house.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's an absolute privilege to have you on this show, Spence.
Can't wait. Let's see what you guys got.
Now let's talk, number one, about you debuted in 2019, correct, Spencer?
Absolutely. Yep. 2019.
2019, 5 years experience in the wrestling ring. Now, all the fans out there want to know, where did this all start for Spencer Slade? Where did he start his athleticism path in school, everywhere? Where did you start?
Yeah, I started probably as soon as I was probably 5 or 6 years old. That's when I started playing football. That's when I started doing wrestling, basketball, baseball, you name it. At a very, very young age. I'm blessed that my parents created me with great genetics and great athleticism because it started from a young age. And then the love of professional wrestling started when I was 9 years old. And I've been an athlete since I was 5 years old all the way to now. So that's when my athletic career began.
Do you believe that anybody is more athletic than you? Let's just be honest. Right off the bat here. This is 2024. Just be honest, Spence.
You know what? Actually, in my opinion, I don't believe many guys are, but I can see wrestling fans thinking there are people more athletic than me because I don't do much of that athletic except in the ring because I don't have to, because I look a certain way. I pull out my athleticism when it needs to be pulled out. So there's a little mystique with my athleticism because some fans have never really seen what I'm capable of because, I pull that out when it means something.
Let's be honest with each other again. And Sage, you can understand this. Fans don't know anything that's going on anyways. They think they know what's going on behind this curtain. They don't know what's going on. Like, people boo you. Are they stupid? I think so. I would like to say so. Sage, would you like to say so?
I'm actually a really big fan of you, so I gotta agree with Rhinestone for once in my life.
Oh, she agrees with me more than once, I'll tell you that.
Today will only be once, Rhinestone. Today will only be once. Don't get your hopes up high.
So, in football, what was the position that you played? Quarterback? Did you lead the show?
Yeah, I always played both ways. So, on offense, I was always either a tight end, and then on defense, and I played defensive end linebacker. So I was going for the stats, baby. Most tackles, most receptions, you name it. I wanted all the stats in the newspaper. That was me.
How many records did you set?
That's a good question. I would say most of my records were set on defense, like sacks, tackles for loss, total tackles. More of it was on defense because, defense was kind of more what I like, tackling people, hitting people, kind of what you do today in wrestling.
Exactly. See, defense is what wins games, folks. I'm a Steelers guy. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers guy. All right? Hey, and the Bills, karma sucks, doesn't it? Wide right, suckers. Wide right. But let's get into a little bit more information about Spencer Slade, the amazing athlete that's on our show today. He's had the IWC high stakes title for 415 days. International Wrestling Cartel. He's defended that belt 9 times. His last defense successfully was against Alexander Apollo. Tell us a little bit, Spencer, about this title reign for you and what it means to you.
Yeah, so IWC, the International Wrestling Cartel, is probably the top, besides BPW, respectively, is probably the top promotion in Pennsylvania, probably the Northeast. They've been around for 20 years. Every great name in the professional wrestling in the Indies has come through, IWC. And the high stakes title, I like to refer to it as kind of like the Workers' Championship, the IC title. And that title means a lot to me because I'm all about elevating titles. I mean, you hear the quote all the time, the man makes the title. Well, Slade makes the high stakes title because every time you watch the high stakes title defended, you're watching somebody who defends the sport of wrestling. You're watching a wrestling match. You're not seeing a choreographed stunt show between two guys, that look like fans. You're watching a guy that looks like a champion go out there and successfully defend that title.
That's exactly it. And I always respected the IC title probably the most out of any title because it's your next step to the next level, which is the top. And when we talk the top, Spencer Slade's there, people. He's there. Because let's talk about an obvious thing, and we're going to talk about it. Number 1 contender for the Battlefield Pro Wrestling title. KC NAVARRO is holding it right now. This weekend is the first pay-per-view for BPW, Inception. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup that's coming up for you, Spencer Slade, and how you feel about this, and KC NAVARRO in general.
Great question. Well, allow me to fire a pipe bomb here on KC NAVARRO, if you will.
I love it.
I've got great respect for BPW. I think BPW, first off, is going to probably be the best independent promotion when 2024 is all said and done. Just to see the amount of growth that it's had since it started to now is incredible. I think all of us can agree on that.
Absolutely.
Second of all, we can also agree that KC NAVARRO is an amazing wrestler. I have respect for him because he pushes himself in the gym and is a great wrestler. But he has one thing around his waist that I want more than anything in BPW. That's the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I can't think of a better way to start the new year off hot and to start the first pay-per-view of BPW than ending Mr. NAVARRO's reign and taking that BPW World Heavyweight Championship, because KC NAVARRO walks around calling himself Mr. Blessed, telling his opponents like me that I'm going to be blessed in the ring. Well, I've got something I'd like to tell KC NAVARRO, and that is that if he wants to bless me in the ring, that's okay, but I'm going to humble the blessed man himself, KC NAVARRO. He's going to get humbled in the ring by me because I'm going to put on a clinic. I'm going to dust him all over that ring. And then I'm going to walk out the new BPW World Heavyweight Champion. And he's going to be blessed for being humbled by me, the most spectacular performer in the game, Spencer Slade.
That was like listening to an exquisite poet, just rattling off some great stuff. Right there is the reason why, KC NAVARRO, you are in trouble this weekend. And I get to call this, and I cannot wait with my partner, Big Joe Bachesco, to call this action. I'm steaming. I'm boiling. I actually need to take a break right now and give it to Sage. Why don't you give Spence a question? I know you're dying for it.
Yes, I do. I do have one question that I'm really dying to ask you. It's a little, no, I wouldn't say off topic, but I know that a lot of the guys in the bag really respect you and look up to you. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is, just starting up in this wrestling business that's just hoping that they can achieve a career like yours so far?
That's a great question. My biggest piece of advice is going to be, you have to dedicate your life to this. You can see pretty quickly the people that actually live the life of trying to make it versus the people that just say they want to make it. You have to dedicate everything to this, your time, your resources, your money. You got to be comfortable with not really having any friends outside of this. Everything that you do has to be designed to become the best professional wrestler that you can be, because this is a very, very hard dream to chase. I like to equate it to being like a stand-up comedian or being in a garage band. You have to start from the bottom and really grind and hustle and work your way to the top. So my advice really comes down to, you have to be willing and wanting to hustle and really, really do whatever it takes to get to where you want to go. It's that simple.
And I'm glad you asked that question, Sage, because let's talk a little bit about the top echelon of wrestling, shall we? Because Spencer, you've been there. You've been there. Monday Night Raw. You took on Omos in a handicap match with your partner Mambo Italiano.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I remember that very vividly.
What was that experience like of being in the ring with a giant like Omos?
Yeah, it was like trying to wrestle a human refrigerator, because that guy is so big that literally you can't do anything to him. I mean, we've seen so many guys outside of me try. We've seen Bobby Lashley, Dolph Ziggler, a number of guys try. Seth Rollins, a number of guys try to wrestle this mammoth of a man. It's the biggest human being that I've ever seen in my life. Now, going back to the experience, it was awesome. It was exactly what, humbly, it's exactly what I knew I was going to get to and be, because I'm just confident in my abilities. But that was a really, really, really cool day, because, it was actually my first day ever going backstage to a WWE show, doing extra work. And I just happened to have my trial match live on Monday Night Raw against the giant himself, Omos.
How do you feel it would have went down if it was just you and him instead of in a handicap match?
You know what? I'm actually, as much as this might surprise you, I'm actually glad that it was a handicap match, because as you can see, my partner is the one that got his butt kicked more than I did. My partner is the one that took the pinfall. So technically, I am unbeaten. Omos didn't technically beat me. He beat my partner.
So basically, WWE, you better call him back real fast, because he hasn't even won a damn match yet.
Exactly. And I'm so much of a better wrestler now than I was a year ago. So I would love to get a chance to wrestle Omos again. But then again, of all the guys in WWE, he's probably on the bottom of my list in terms of guys I want to wrestle. Because, I mean, let's be honest with you. When's the last time anybody's ever said, oh, did you want to watch a great Omos match? Never.
That is an absolute fact. That's an absolute fact. I like when people come on my show, Sage, like this, and they just tell it like it is. They just tell it like it is. You can't win that.
I know.
This is why I wanted this man on my show, and this is a privilege, because we're telling it like it. And while we're telling it like it is, let's just get into it. You're going after KC NAVARRO's title. If you win this belt, there's a certain someone that's going to be staring over your shoulder, and that man is a dark STG. I know that name frustrates you.
Yes, it does. I'm going to have a nightmare tonight when I go to bed.
Let's talk about it. The record, 2-1 STG.
STG, man. That was, first of all, I always give credit where it's due. I was very, very shocked at the outcome of the feud that STG had. I really, really thought that, despite my wrestling ability, that I could take care of the monster. But because I am not as dark as STG, or I don't come from the weird world that he comes from, I wasn't very experienced enough and becoming dark like STG. So that's the reason why he was able to walk out, was able to one up from me. But this time it's going to be a little bit different because, you know, I'm going to have that title bout if Dark SCG comes after me. And I'm a much more experienced now of what that man is capable of. He's a very, very dark man. And that's the last person that I would have to want to have my first title defense against Dark STG, because I would like to stay away from dark people and weird, creepy people for as long as I can, because that's just not my type of opponent.
Bad Muju, what the hell is in that book? What is in that book?
He is terrifying.
What is in that book, and does he speak English?
I didn't really get in. That's a great question. First of all, no, he doesn't speak English. He speaks I don't think he speaks at all.
Autobot.
If he does, if he does speak at all, it's probably a mix of like Chinese and Spanish and you name it. Who knows? Secondly, I never really got a chance to look and see what's in the book, because when I opened the book up, the light started shutting on and off. It was the most weirdest experience in the world. So I hope that I never have to go near that book or ever open it again.
He's a strange, odd man, but I hope
he's terrifying.
I hope you stay away from him for a while there, Spence. I hope you stay away from him.
I might need to pull some of my, backstage politics or political power at BPW and have rent out the Broadhead, PA local sheriff's office or police and have them have Dark SCG barricaded or suspended from the arena, because we need to keep that man as far away from me as possible.
Get him deported back to Autobot land, where he came from. I mean, he's a strange guy. But let's talk about another strange guy. Gene Snitsky's running around in the back, telling everybody that Alpha screwed him over. He wants that belt. You got a lot of things to worry about for this belt, Spence.
Yeah, this guy Snitsky, man, I unfortunately couldn't get the job done against Snitsky a couple months ago. So that's another guy who's another mentally deranged guy that wanders through the woods of eastern Pennsylvania. So if he can stay in his compound and not come near me, that's fine. As a matter of fact, my life is looking pretty bad here at BPW. I got two crazy guys wandering around that might want to come after me. That's Snitsky and Dark STG.
Listen, I know a guy that knows a guy that can take care of people real fast. It's just real secretive. Down deposit, they'll take care of them. You'll never see them again.
Rhinestone, your uncle's business has not been successful.
Hey,
Stop trying to put it out there.
Jebediah knows what he's doing, all right? Listen, we're not going to get into any of that. Sage, I'm going to let you ask two more questions, because
two more. Oh, I'm special.
I got some real heaters for Spence after you.
Oh, God.
You go ahead. This is a 1 in a million chance.
I know, you're right. Okay, so we talk about all your accomplishments. I mean, you've held various championship belts all over so many different companies. You've been to WWE, you've been to AEW. Is there one accomplishment that you hold closer to your heart than anything else you've ever done?
That's a good question. I would say most people probably in my situation, would probably say this title bout or that opponent. But to answer your question truthfully and humbly, because I tell it like it is, that's kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. I actually haven't really accomplished what I would like to be proud of yet. Obviously my goal is to win a championship in WWE or NXT or the NWA. I have a lot bigger goals than what I've already accomplished, and I know I've accomplished some nice things, but I have some really, really high expectations for myself. So I would have to say, if there's one thing that I'm proud of right now, it's probably successfully retaining my IWC high stakes champion against Flip Gordon. That would probably be something that I'm kind of proud at. But other than that, I'm proud for what I know that I'm going to accomplish in the future.
That's awesome. And we talked about your whole history, how you got started, and what led you into professional wrestling itself. Like, did you have someone that inspired you growing up that you looked at and you went, okay, I can do this too? Or was it just from doing like amateur wrestling that you were like, I want a different challenge for myself?
Yeah, the kind of both. Number one, was actually my grandfather got me into wrestling. When I was about, I think I was 8 or 9 years old. He happened to have WrestleMania 19, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. He had that on
Great
the
match.
yeah, yep, all time classic. He had that on his TV, and I happened to watch it as a little kid, and I was drawn in by these two guys that looked like badasses going in there and having a real wrestling match. It was probably as real as you could get it. And ever since then, I like to say the professional wrestling bit me right. The professional wrestling bug bit me right in the ass right there because I never missed a Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view since then, and that's what got me into wrestling. WrestleMania 19.
What a match to start watching wrestling at. Oh
Incredible.
my God.
That was a good time. I mean, wasn't that the one where Brock went for the shooting star?
Yes, it was. Yep, that was the one everybody remembers that for.
Wow.
That was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, a big man flying like that. Would you ever try a shooting star, Spence?
You know what? I um
Put him on the spot.
You put me on a spot. It kind of goes back to athleticism, right? I think the fans, they're never going to be able to know if my athleticism will allow me to do that, because that's not something that I would pull out unless if it's a very, very big show for a certain company. So maybe you can stay tuned and find out. I'll leave it to you like that.
I love that answer. I love that answer. Now let's get into something you newly acquired. The ESW Interstate title. Let's talk a little bit about that. More gold. What do you see in the future for the Interstate Championship? What do you want to do with that title? What do you want to prove?
So, first off, Empire State Wrestling is another incredible independent wrestling company up there in Buffalo, New York area. They draw incredible houses up there. What I would like to accomplish the ESW Interstate Championship, I want that to be the top, like the best workers title of the independents. I want every single independent company and independent wrestler out there, when they think that their shit doesn't stink, or they think that they're the man on the indies, I want them to realize, oh shit, if I want to call myself the best, I need to go prove it against Spencer Slade against the Interstate Championship, because I am the real superstar, the most spectacular wrestler, the best wrestler on the independents. And I happen to carry the ESW Interstate Championship. So if you're out there and you think that you're the best, there's one man to come and prove it against. And he's standing right, talking to you right here, right now on the Rhinestone podcast.
And if you want tag team gold, you can even look at Spencer Slade as well. MCW tag team champion, Capital Punishment, 184 days as tag team champions with his partner Tim Springs. When is it going to be that you branch out with Tim Springs? When are we going to see Capital Punishment BPW? When are we going to see Tim Springs everywhere?
That is a great question. Number one, I'm kind of fortunate enough to be booked every weekend for the rest of the year for multiple, indie promotions. So it's very, very hard to bring a tag team partner with me to a promotion that I have a title bout with, or I have, like another, a top spot. Unless if those promoters are okay with, having me wrestle twice on the show, I would gladly defend a tag team bout and wrestle my tag team partner and wrestle a singles match on the same show. If that's something these promoters are okay, but that's really the only chance that you're going to be able to see that, because Tim Spriggs and I are really a once in a lifetime attraction. You have to pay to come see us on MCW, which is another top indie promotion out there. So to answer your question there, Ryan, so it's kind of hard to bring Tim Spriggs with me when I'm already booked on these other places. It's kind of one of those things where we're kind of exclusively to MCW right now, because it's such a good promotion. It's such a big platform.
Listen here, promoters. This is the Rhinestone Cowboy, Johnny Buchanan, coming to you from my podcast with Spencer Slade. This man just said he'll work twice in the same damn day. And that's a damn athlete right there. You're Go
and
ahead.
I'm gonna take you know what? I'm gonna take a knock at KC NAVARRO and knock one of his lines right now. I, Spencer Slade, will bless any of you promoters and companies out there working twice, and you don't have to pay me for the second match because I'm a workhorse, I'm an athlete, I'm a spectacular performer. You get a chance to see Capital Punishment as a tag team and Spencer Slade as a singles guy on the same show. I will gladly do it. I will gladly bless you all. How you like that, KC NAVARRO?
I hope you're listening
Shots
to this.
fired.
I don't think KC NAVARRO likes podcasts, honestly. I don't think he does. I don't think he does, but I'm going to make a clip and I'm going to send this to him personally. How about that? How we're going to do it? Because why don't you go ahead and bless him with this podcast? Make him eat his own shit. I will bless him with this. Let's get into another topic because we got a guy that you actually have a history with. You actually went up against Dan Moff in Northeast Wrestling, right? Yes, Let's talk about Dan Moff and the havoc that he's wreaking in the locker room right now. When are we going to see Spencer Slade taking on Dan Moff in BPW? That's a match I want to see.
Yeah. And you know what? That's actually speaking of Dan Moff, I actually like what he's doing at BPW right now. He's trying to take out all the people that I don't like as well. So
wreaking havoc.
Yeah, wreaking havoc. So, maybe Dan Moff is a guy that I need to go talk to. Maybe he could be, my enforcer, right? He could take out maybe Dark STG away from me. So I don't necessarily look at Dan Moff right now as a title contender. I look at Dan Moff as somebody that I might want to, have a serious business talk with. Maybe Dan Moff, like I said, could, provide that security that I need around here. How about that?
I set this whole thing up. If this transpires, I will promote. I will find you bookings. I will do whatever I got to do to see that as a faction. Or a tag team, or anything. Capital Punishment +2. You understand what I'm saying? Dan Moff's like two people in one.
That was scary. He is
let's talk about another gentleman that I need to see more of taking on Spencer Slade. I want to see this man at BPW. I want to call this man's action because when I think of the headgear, I don't always just think about Spencer Slade. I also think about Josh Alexander, because you took on Josh Alexander in IWC for the X Division title.
Yes, I did, and I will give you the full story about that. That was actually, when was that? That was May of 2021. That was, we called it the Battle of the Headgear. That was probably my biggest match at that point to date. And unfortunately, I came up just a little bit short against Josh Alexander. But that was probably the closest that Josh has had to almost losing the X Division title. And I'll tell you a crazy story about that day. It was in May, and it happened to be an outdoor show that we did on a minor league ballpark. And it rained. It was only 45 degrees. And there's me out there with my trunks on, half naked, having to wrestle for the TNA X Division Championship in 45-degree weather. So I'm going to put it on record that when him and I do wrestle again under normal circumstances, the result is probably going to be a little bit different. Now, here we go again. I have all the respect for Josh Alexander because he wears the headgear just like I do. But there's one thing that I will not forget about Josh Alexander. I saw that he did an interview, I think, with Chris Van Vliet. I want to say a couple months ago where Chris Van Vliet had asked him about wearing the headgear. And Josh Alexander said something to the effect that he's the only guy in wrestling that wears the headgear and makes it work. And I never forgot about that because I took that as a little bit of a snub right there. So if you're listening there, Mr. Alexander, one of these days that comment's going to come back to haunt you because I am building my name up right now. And sooner than later, that other guy that you forgot that wears the headgear is going to be standing up, looking down at you with my hand raised when I defeat you again.
This has got to be the best show I've ever done, Sage. I'll tell you that
I
right now, because
know.
I'm going to tell you this. Josh Alexander's from Canada, correct?
Yes, he
That
is.
was a setup. That was a setup, man.
Oh, God.
45-degree weather. They play snow naked. They play hockey naked in Canada. I heard that. I heard that.
From who?
And I heard it from a very valuable resource named Stacy from a fine escort service. I heard it. I heard it. But let's talk about this now. Let's talk about this now. NWA, National Wrestling Alliance. You see the gear, he's wearing it right now.
NWA, baby.
Let's talk about it. Billy Corgan buys up NWA and he building it into his own image that he wants. And I feel he's doing a great job with it, except for when James Mitchell decides to do ridiculous things. But I love the Sinister Minister. I love that stuff. It gets people to look at you. You know what I mean, Spencer? So it's not negative. You know what I mean? What's it like working for Billy Corgan, the man that's a vampire?
Yes, the man that is also well known for being in Smashing Pumpkins as well.
Bingo.
Number one, it is incredible. Billy Corgan has given me the ultimate honor and privilege and big opportunity to work for the NWA. I think what you see in wrestling is every great top name that you know, household name today, has always had that first big national exposure before, they got to the big time. For example, upcoming indie guys who did Ring of Honor, before they would go to WWE. This is exactly how I view NWA. NWA, for me personally, is a stepping stone to get to where I want to go eventually. So I'm very proud to be part of the NWA. Billy Corgan knows I'm money. He knows that I'm the best wrestler on the independents. That's why he has me on all of his shows. So to answer your question, it's incredible to wrestle for the NWA. We actually just had a crazy Florida loop 2 weeks ago down in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa. So for all you people out there, starting on Tuesday, February 6th, the NWA will be airing weekly on Power on the CW app. It's free. So you're going to be seeing a ton of content involving Spencer Slade in the coming months on the CW network. And I will just leave it to you at that.
That is awesome to hear, because I love the old studio wrestling. I'm the Rhinestone Cowboy. I enjoy stuff like that. That's something that's like my top of the line stuff. That's where I want to end up one day in my life. NWA calling some action there. I got the voice to do it. Come on, Billy Corgan. I'm amazing at what I do. I got the best guy in the planet here on my show, for Christ's sake. But let's talk a little bit more about NWA, because you got Wrecking Ball Legursky in there, another guy that comes from Battlefield Pro.
He's scary too.
You got your own self a faction in NWA, the New Spectaculars 2.0. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure, the New Spectaculars 2.0. So those two guys down there, they needed a new partner. They needed somebody to help them turn into winners. Somebody that was going to bring more exposure to the NWA. They needed like a wrestling machine. They needed an all-American athlete. And what better guy on the indies for them to pick than me? So the New Spectaculars 2.0, for the people out there who don't know who we are, have not seen us, I'll make it as simple as I can. We're essentially kind of like what you would see in a high school. You have me, the all-American athlete, and then you have my two dork friends, Rush and Rolando. That's really what the New Spectaculars are. I do all the work, I get all the wins, and they just happen to kind of ride and kind of they reap the benefits of what I can physically do. And you're going to see in the coming months why the Spectaculars can get exactly what you want out of a wrestling match. We're entertaining, we can wrestle, and most importantly for me, the NWA is a chance for a new audience, because unfortunately, let's face it, there's a couple NWA fans out there who live under a rock and don't really pay attention to independent wrestling. So this is the first exposure they get of me. And for all the fans that know who I am, that are watching me in NWA, you're going to see a little bit of different of Spencer Slade. You're going to see more character. You're going to really see who I really am. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
I'm glad that you bring up indie wrestling a lot. That's like your bread
Yeah.
and butter, indie wrestling. And I love indie wrestling as well. But this is a great question, I think, because in the pro wrestling world now and the way that it's designed, you see a lot more variety in indie wrestling. Like you have death match wrestlers that can actually be more technical than technical guys on the mainstream. How do you feel about indie wrestling and where it's going now? Because you see people like Nick Nemeth.
Rattle a little feathers when I say this, because you know me, and once again, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to call it how I see it. Here we go, baby. It's going to turn into a sheet interview now. So this answer might surprise you, but I do not think very highly of indie wrestling, and here's why. Because there's too many guys out there in the independent wrestling scene that look like they should be changing the oil in my car, and then they go out there, they look like they went to Dick's Sporting Goods an hour before the show to get their gear, and they go out there and do a million different moves. They can't throw a real punch like a grown-ass adult man, so they throw a bunch of chops, a bunch of fake-looking forearms, and they do all this running around, all this stuff that just looks so hokey, yet they want to call themselves a professional wrestler. That's why I call them indie darlings. When I think of what independent wrestling should be, I think of me. I think of somebody that looks like they should be in television, somebody that looks like a professional wrestler, that goes out there and wrestles how he should wrestle, how he looks like he should wrestle. That's my take on independent wrestling.
What do you think about these deathmatch guys?
These deathmatch guys, I think, are either on a bunch of drugs doing this or are just out of their mind. Because I, myself, to me, it's not wrestling. Just because you can hit somebody with a light tube, that doesn't mean you're Ric Flair. So you're asking the guy that actually despises deathmatch wrestling. So I'm not going to elaborate any further on that. I'm just going to tell you that I am not a fan.
I'm loving every second of this, and I got to turn it over to Sage because I feel like I'm on a roll right now.
I know you are.
We got
so excited, Rhinestone.
Couple more things that we got to let this man go because he's got an important.
He's a wanted man. He's a wanted
Sage,
man.
Hit him with something. Hit him with
something. So earlier you mentioned that at that time in your career, your match against Josh Alexander for the TNA X Division Championship was your biggest match to date. Do you still consider that to be your biggest match, or do you have something that's in your book surpassed that?
Yeah, that's you know what? That's a good question. It's kind of hard to answer that because you're either going to go off of name value in terms of like their name, or you're going to kind of go off like with the best in-ring match itself. I would say, the match with Flip Gordon, I would say Work Right was probably a little bit better than Josh. Not knocking Josh, but just kind of from my perspective, because once again, I was about a year's worth more experience going into the Flip Gordon match. So I would say I topped the Josh Alexander match with Flip. And then I'm going to top the Flip match with KC NAVARRO because you know me, every single match I have, I try to top them. So we're going to keep on topping them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And earlier you mentioned how, you have your list of wrestlers that you want to go against, and that Omos would be at the bottom because no one would pay to see, an Omos match.
Nobody would.
Nope.
So who is then on top of that list for you?
Putting him on the spot again, Sage.
Everybody, would you like to talk maybe just the independent level or just,
Why don't you give us both answers? See, give us one from the independent level and then give us one from wherever.
So, on my independent wrestling list is obviously, very, very short just because I myself don't really think very fond of many guys in the indies. And also, too, I'm trying to, get signed to a wrestling contract where I don't have to wrestle on indies, where I can, make a nice chunk of change, wrestle in one place. So to answer your question, I would say There's quite a few. I would say there's one or two guys up in the Northeast. One guy that I happened to defeat in a scramble on Saturday, Alec Price. I would like to tangle with him one-on-one. There's another guy up there named Channing Thomas, who probably is another guy that I would like to tangle with. And really, the only other guy that I would like to wrestle again, I've wrestled him like 20 times, is big time Bill Collier. So that's my independent list right there. Now, to give you my overall list, number one, a dream match of mine would be against Randy Orton, my all-time favorite wrestler. That would be icing on the cake for me. Number two would be Dolph Ziggler. That's another guy that I absolutely love and admire. Number three, I would probably like to say Kurt Angle, but obviously that's probably not going to happen. And then really my last pick is probably going to be Samoa Joe, because I love his style of wrestling. So those are the people right now that, that I would love one day to get a chance to, wrestle against.
Some big timers right there. Those are some big timers, because you bring up Bill Collier, and he's the ESW World Heavyweight
title. One more guy I'm going to add to that list. I'm happy to wrestle. I'm actually going to be wrestling him in a tag team match 2 weeks here at MCW is Mr. the Bro himself, Matt Riddle. So even though it's not a singles match, it's still a tag team match. So I could still technically check that off the list.
That's pretty awesome. That's so awesome. Congratulations.
Many congratulations. I'm glad you brought up Matt Riddle, because I'll tell you this. A guy your caliber, what do you feel about a person like Matt Riddle and how he carries himself? He gets down with a little bit of pot. I do too, and I haven't even smoked on this show because I got that much respect for you. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't even want to screw up right here because I'm loving this shit. But what do you feel about Matt Riddle?
You actually, this is a perfect segue, Actually, I'm sure, as you can tell by the way that I look and how I carry myself, I'm a big straight edge guy.
I knew it.
So, that's me. So I'm the kind of guy that, people can do what they want to do. If Matt Riddle, Mr. the Bro himself, if Matt Riddle needs to do what he needs to do, smoke a little bit here or there, that's going to put him in the best mind physically and mentally, then I'm all for it, because I want the absolute best I can get out of Matt Riddle. And if that's going to do the job, then please, Matt, do as much as you'd like, because I cannot wait.
I love Matt Riddle because he does do it, but I'll tell you this. I got respect for straight edge people, because the fact that you guys can walk around with nothing that has to divert you from the subject. You don't have to take a drink. You don't have to do none of that. And you guys just keep your cool. You just keep your cool. Because another guy I respect out there is a man named Atticus Cogar. I don't know if you ever ran into that man, but I feel he's an up-and-coming talent that should be watched. He should be watched. I would love to see you two cross paths one of these days.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually seen him before when I first started out here at IWC. And like I said, he's not a guy that's on my list to wrestle, but if the opportunity ever came, all I'm going to say is that it's not going to be any of this death match stuff. It's going to be a regular one-on-one singles match.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because Atticus
is disqualified.
In IWC, he used to wear a skid mask and didn't used to do death matches. He was a straight up wrestler at one point.
I know. And see, that's the crazy thing. It's there's some of these guys I've seen on the indies where they used to be a wrestler, and then like all of a sudden they get into deathmatch wrestling and it seems like they can't get out of it. Like almost like it's a drug or it's a cult. It's like all they do. They don't even go back to regular wrestling. So to answer your question, I don't even know if he's a guy that would want to go back into regular wrestling, because you don't really see that with deathmatch guys. Once they're in that deathmatch bubble, they kind of just stay in it. At least that's what I've seen.
It's a very strong family, or they're a family, those people. They're a family. They stay united. I feel as if, like, you want to shoot for the stars. You already know you're top of the line. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like they get nervous. They're like, I can't get to this spot, so let me stay in this spot. And they let people like you move to the rightful place that you need to be at. Because some of them don't have the looks. Some of them ain't got the look.
You just said it right there. The look. that is something that requires hard work, sweat, and dedication. And I guarantee you, I'm gonna say it how it is. I guarantee you a lot of those deathmatch guys have a bunch of excuses for why they can't get to the gym or for why they can't eat right or for why they can't do this or that. When you look like I do, when you have a great body, that's the whole point of wrestling is you don't have to do that. You can do the least amount of stuff in the ring. That's what I do because when you look better and you present yourself like a star, you don't need to do all this extra added crazy stuff to make up for the fact that you don't look like a star. It's that simple.
He's never ate a Twinkie in his life, never had a Pepsi Cola. He's never had any of that. He doesn't even know what a carb is. I guarantee it, Sage. Spence don't know what a carb is. He's a protein and steel. That's what it is.
You got it, my friend. You got it.
There you go, Rhinestone.
Now Sage, we're gonna finish with this and then just do a little quick close.
Okay. Okay.
EC3 is the holder of the 5 pounds of gold. Right? When is it? What do you think about EC3 personally? What do you feel about his reign as the NWA World Champion?
So, great question. Number one, I myself am a huge fan, huge supporter of EC3. I can't tell you how much that guy has helped me. He's one of the reasons why I got into the up to the NWA. I mean, EC3 is pretty much like the talent relations guy or talent scout or whatever you want to call that for the NWA. I mean, every time I actually just was talking to EC3, you know, a couple days ago through a text message because he's a good dude, wants to help me out. So I'm very, very happy that he is the NWA champion. But once again, he's got something around his shoulder that I would like to add and get one day. Not going to say it's going to happen right now because I'm focusing on building myself up at the NWA, but when the time is right, and if EC3 is still holding the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, then him and I are going to meet one-on-one in that ring. I guarantee you.
That will change your life, in my opinion, when you hold that title, because that is still, in my opinion, the top of the line belt. I don't care about WWE World Heavyweight Universal title, whatever it is. The 5 pounds of gold is the original belt that everybody wanted to hold. And that's still holding prowess to this day.
Absolutely. That's actually one of my other, one of my goals in wrestling is win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship because how many people do you know, in AEW or WWE can say that they've held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship? That's a very, very short list of people.
And I feel that like people like Nick Aldis, and now he's in the WWE. I feel when he became the world champion, he took it to a whole nother level. Now you see him doing these GM things with Roman Reigns, and he's outshining Roman.
And once again, if you were to ask me when I was coming up on the independents, who my favorite independent wrestler was, it's going to be Nick Aldis. And here's why. Nick Aldis, probably going to go down, in my opinion, one of the best in-ring wrestlers. I mean, look at the guy. He looks like a star, right?
Yes, he does.
He looks like who an NWA World Heavyweight Champion should be. He's the guy that I look up to on the independents. When I was coming up on the indies and I was seeing, once again, all these deathmatch guys or all these indie guys that just look like shit, let's face it, he's the guy that I wanted to look like, that I wanted to be like, that I wanted to model. Because once again, when you look great, you don't have to do much. You can do what you need to do and get by. That's the whole point of wrestling. So big thumbs up for Mr. Nick Aldis.
Absolutely. And Paul Heyman, you better not talk smack about them suits he's wearing, because I think that's more expensive than the suit you were wearing, Paul. Just saying. Nick's got money. Nick's got money. And I love the fact he never used to wear that belt. He used to just carry it with pride like a baby. I feel you should just carry belts like that all the time with that much pride.
Absolutely. This is actually something that I just started thinking about, when I come out, whether it's MCW or ESW or IWC, I usually will come out with the belt around my waist. but I'm thinking in my head now, like, what do I want to do a little bit differently? How do I want to tweak my entrance or my presentation just a little bit differently? And the first thing I thought about was that right there, carrying a belt like a baby. I felt like I feel like that just adds it just adds that star, a little bit more star power, a little bit more credibility to you. So that's a great thing you just brought up, carrying a belt like a baby.
Oh, that's smart.
Absolutely. You carry it with pride and protection, Sage.
True.
Go ahead, Sage. Go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Say what you gotta say.
No, I completely agree. I feel like that's such a great idea, and I wish more people would do it. Like growing up, when I would like do my, as a kid, you always wrestle around like with whatever stuffed animal you got. And when I would do that, and I would make myself champion, I carry it like a baby because I'm like, why wouldn't you want to carry your championship like a baby?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and because and I'll admit, like my one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, like Randy Orton, he would always carry it around his shoulder. People would wear it around their waist, but when you carry it, like a baby, it just has a different presentation to it. It makes it look like it's the thing that you hold to your heart more closer than anything in this world, as it should be.
As it should be.
I think that's smart, honestly. You should really start doing that.
Well, that just might happen starting after this Sunday when I when I humble Mr. Blessed in the middle of that ring and walk out your new Battlefield Pro Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion.
Carry it out like a baby. Smart.
I was about to ask you. You got any last things to say to KC NAVARRO before this weekend?
I do. Once again, KC NAVARRO, you know that I respect you as a competitor. I respect the sacrifices, the hard work, everything that you put in professional wrestling to get to where you are today. I even am a fan of you working out, posting all your pictures that you post and videos. Even today, I saw you were crushing your legs today at the gym. You keep doing that, and I admire you for that. But once again, no hard feelings towards you. It's just business. You have one thing that I want more than anything else in my life right now, and that's the BPW World Heavyweight Championship. And what you're going to find is that you, Mr. Blessed, are going to be humbled in the middle of that ring this Sunday, live on the Premier Streaming Network at 5 p.m. 137 Aaron Lane, Bridesheadville, Pennsylvania. Battlefield Pro Wrestling presents Inception.
Done like a professional, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what he is. Spencer, tell the people where they can find you, social media, so more people can find you. Put the eyes where they deserve to be on Spencer Slade. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so, just in case you've been living under a rock and you don't have an iPhone or you don't have a computer, iPad, Android device, whatever, you can find me on all social media platforms. Starting out with what we're on right now, Facebook. You can Facebook at Spencer Slade, Twitter at Slade Wrestler, Instagram at Slade Wrestling. You can find me on YouTube at Fear the Gear. You can find me, get all your merchandise on prowrestlingtees.com/Fear the Gear.
Sage, you got any final words before I close this thing out?
I think we've hit every question we ask them. Ask all of our guests that come on this show. But I just want to, ask it one more time. Do you see yourself in WWE? Is that the ultimate goal? We ask that every time.
You probably can answer that question yourself. You probably already know the answer to that question. And the answer is yes. That's obviously the ultimate goal. But I think you're probably going to see that happen either by the end of this year or early next year. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but you just keep your eyes peeled. But that is the goal.
Got you.
Let me take my glasses off for a second for this one. Triple H, WWE. Oh. You're missing out. You're missing out if you don't get this man. He needs a contract right now. Get him on there. Spencer Slade. Thank you so much.
The WWE will be blessed when they have me. And then all the opponents that they put in front of me will be humbled when they will fear the gear.
All of them. Every single one of them. Spencer Slade, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I
Thank
hope
you
you come
so
on again so
much.
we can do round 2 of this, because this was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys.
Thank you
Once
so
again,
much.
thank you so much for inviting me on. If there's anything that I can do to bring more eyeballs to the Rhinestone, you let me know, because you guys are good people, and I will see y'all on Sunday.
That's the show, people. We'll see you for episode 5 next week.